welcome back to News of Asha. Today is 10th of August 2023. Let's see what's happening in the world today. Assassination of presidential candidate shocks Ecuador. The assassination of Ecuadorian presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio shocked the South American country when rising drug-related violence is a major concern for voters, leading some of his rivals to suspend campaigning. A suspect in the crime later died of injuries sustained in a shootout, and 6 others have so far been arrested. The Attorney General's office said 9 people, including a candidate for the legislature and 2 police officers, were injured, it added. Lasso, who called the elections early amid an impeachment bid against him, has blamed heightened violence on the streets and in prison on criminal infighting to control drug trafficking routes used by Mexican cartels, the Albanian mafia and others, and struggled to push back on crime. Villavicencio, party Movimiento Construye, said on Wednesday's discussions had been held recently about whether to suspend campaigning due to political violence, including the July murder of the mayor of Manta. Villavicencio opposed the suspension, it said, saying it would be an act of cowardice, and unfortunately that has cost him his life. But the man died with honor and integrity, and that is something that is rare in this world today. Miss Universe Indonesia contestants allege sexual abuse. Several Miss Universe Indonesia candidates have registered police complaints against organizers of sexual abuse. The contestants were asked to take off their tops for body checks and photographs 2 days before the finals on August 3rd, one of their lawyers said. "I feel that my rights have been violated," one of the contestants said. "It has affected me mentally. I have had trouble sleeping," she said, speaking to the media alongside other complainants earlier this week. Local television blurred their faces in the broadcast to protect their identities. While body checks are normal in the country, contestants are not usually asked to strip naked, said Maria Hafanti, a former Miss Indonesia. She added that organizers also often ask for the contestants' BMI, or body mass index, to check their body proportions. While beauty pageants have long been allowed in Indonesia, organizers are careful not to offend conservative sections of the society. In 2013, the Miss World pageant cancelled its bikini rounds when it was staged in the largely Muslim nation. Let's hope that they find out who did this and bring those people to justice. Hawaii wildfires. 6 deaths confirmed as blazes engulf Maui. 6 people have died and more have been injured by wildfires sweeping the Hawaiian island of Maui, officials say. Thousands are without power or cell phone service due to fires that are being fueled by winds from a nearby hurricane in the Pacific Ocean. An emergency order has been signed discouraging people from coming to Maui, which is a popular tourist destination. "We have shelters that are overrun. We have resources that are being taxed. We are doing whatever we can for local residents," the State Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke said during a news briefing on Wednesday morning, local time. Much of the destruction has taken place in Maui island of Lahaina. Part of the town was destroyed or severely damaged by the blaze. One local resident told media that every boat in the town harbour was burning. The US Coast Guard said it had rescued 12 people after reports of residents fleeing into the water to escape the fires. The Lahaina fire is one of at least 7 ongoing in Hawaii. About 13,000 people live in the city situated on the western part of the island of Maui. That fire is one of several in Hawaii fueled by strong winds by Hurricane Dora, hundreds of miles offshore, low humidity and dry air, according to National Weather Service Honolulu's office. Local officials have said that the winds have complicated efforts to use helicopters for firefighting operations. What is happening in the world? We are having wildfires on one end and massive hurricanes on the other. Typhoon Kanun makes landfall in South Korea after lashing Japan. Tokyo. Typhoon Kanun made landfall on the southeast coast of South Korea on Thursday after dumping heavy rains across southern Japan over the past week. Warnings have been issued across South Korea with more than 330 flights cancelled and more than 10,000 people moved to safety. Kanun is passing between Japan's main southwestern island of Kyushu, 860 kilometers from Tokyo, and the Korean peninsula, picking up little speed as it moves north at 20 kilometers per hour. Fed by humid air from the storm, heavy rains was still battering parts of western Japan, with some areas getting well over the normal for August in the past week. One town had recorded 985 millimeters as of Thursday morning. North Korea is also bracing for the storm, which Kanun expected to barrel through its capital, Pyongyang. Sandbags and pumps have been prepared in vulnerable areas, the KCNA state news agency reported on Wednesday. but attention was already turning to another storm, Typhoon Lan, which passed near Ogasawara Islands, about 1,000 kilometers south of Tokyo, late on Wednesday, and was heading northwest at 15 kilometers per hour. Typhoon Kanun's storm path and its predicted path, passing South Korea and North Korea. Deadly attack on 11-year-old schoolgirl shocks amid Argentina election campaigns. Buenos Aires. 11-year-old Argentinian girl died Wednesday after being robbed of a backpack and beaten on the way to school, sparking protests over rising crime and prompting politicians to suspend election campaigning. The country holds primary elections on Sunday ahead of a presidential poll on October 22nd, with rampant inflation and growing insecurities topping voters' concerns. Witnesses speaking to local television stations said Morena Dominguez was walking to school when thieves on the back of a motorcycle, a common tactic in the country, hit her and grabbed her backpack. Dominguez was taken to hospital where she later died. Argentina has one of Latin America's lowest homicide rates, with 4.2 people per 100,000 murdered in 2022. However, petty crime has increased along with poverty as the government battles to clamp down on economic instability and year-on-year inflation, which has hit 115%. Argentines have so little faith in their currency that many exchange it into dollars as fast as they can and store it in safes or under their mattresses. China's real estate market roiled by default fears again as Country Garden spooks investors. Beijing. 2 years after Evergrande's debt troubles, worries about China's real estate sector are coming to the forefront again. Country Garden, one of the largest non-state-owned developers by sale, has reportedly missed 2 coupon payments on dollar bonds that were due Sunday, citing the firm. Reuters said the bonds in question are notes due in February 2026 and August 2030. With China's total home sales in the first half of 2023 down year-on-year, falling home prices month-on-month across the past few months and faltering economic growth, another developer default is perhaps the last thing the Chinese authorities need right now, according to Sandra Chow, co-head of Asia-Pacific Research for CreditSights, which is owned by Fitch Ratings. Last year, many people halted mortgage payments after a delay in receiving homes they had bought. Most apartments in China are sold before they are completed. After watching developers default and fail to complete housing for other families, few Chinese families are willing to shell out in advance for new housing, Rhodium Group Analysis said in a note this week. With that faltering confidence, the private sector will likely remain in a drag on the country's growth for the rest of the year. Far more Chinese household wealth has been locked up in property than is the case in many other countries. Tight capital controls also make it difficult for people in China to invest outside the country, while local financial markets are less mature than those of developed countries. With less children in the future, I don't know if their property market can ever recover. We'll have to wait and see how things play out in the next 10 to 20 years. Global rice prices surge close to 12-year highs and could rise even more. Rice prices surged to their highest in almost 12 years on the back of India's rice export ban and adverse weather conditions that could impact production, said the United Nations Food Agency. The figure is up 19.7% compared to a year ago, and the highest nominal value since September 2011. Data from the Food and Agricultural Organization showed the sharpest increase in prices came from Thailand. India, the world's leading rice exporter, banned exports of non-basmati white rice on July 20th, as the government seeks to keep a cap on soaring food prices at home and ensure there are enough supplies domestically at reasonable prices. We will most probably see a higher FAO rice price index for August 2023 versus July 2023, Oscar Jacras, senior analyst at the Global Food and Agricultural Bank Robobank, told CNBC. He added that India's non-basmati white rice exports ban came at a time of seasonal low inventories in major global suppliers of rice, especially those in Asia. For the next few months, global rice prices directions will be determined by the impact of El Niño, Chakra said in an email. Rice, being a vulnerable crop, has the highest probability of simultaneous crop loss during an El Niño event, a scientific study showed. To make matters worse, Thailand, the world's second largest exporter of rice, is now encouraging its farmers to plant less of the crop in a bid to save water as a result of low rainfall. Food inflation doesn't seem to be going down. We all need to start being prudent and frugal in the way we spend our money. Bank of England remains focused on systematic stablecoin regime. The UK Central Bank has released a consultation response on systematic stablecoins, suggesting that it remains committed to a systematic stablecoin regime. On Tuesday, the Bank of England released the Payment Regulations and Systematic Parameter Framework, which agreed on co-supervision arrangements by the BOE and Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA. The consultation document recommended that regulators clearly outline their collaborative efforts in a memorandum, specifying the specific roles played by each regulatory body within the framework. This would give the BOE the authority to prevent the FCA from taking action against institutions identified as systematic, particularly if it raises concerns about financial stability. Back in June, the UK passed legislation to regulate cryptocurrencies and stablecoins as part of its broader financial regulatory reform post-Brexit. The new law, dubbed Financial Service and Markets Bill, has granted regulators the authority to establish a tailored framework for the digital asset sector, supporting crypto's safe adoption in the UK. At least the UK is doing something right and is trying to expand the cryptocurrency space by enforcing better and more safer regulations, as opposed to the United States, where all alphabet companies are basically going after industry for no particular reason. Let's wait and see how things play out, but I actually am of the opinion that the UK might actually become the new financial hub, or might retake its past position as the financial hub of the world by adopting crypto into its regulatory framework. Circle stablecoin CEO unveils international dominance, 70% of USDC adoption outside of the US. Contrary to the perception of being centered in the US, he noted that much of the adoption of USDC comes from international regions. We estimate that 70% of USDC adoption is non-US, and some of the fastest growing areas are emerging and developing markets. Ali's statement coincides with a reduction in USDC supply since the start of 2023, attributed to declining demand and increased redemptions. He confirmed in a tweet on August 7th that their USD coin, USDC, has experienced a more significant number of redemptions than issuance over the last month. Circle issued 5 billion worth of USDC during this period. However, redemptions exceeded issuance by 1.6 billion, resulting in a total of 6.6 billion redeemed. Consequently, USDC market share as a stablecoin has contracted to 21%, with a total circulation of 26.1 billion. According to data from CoinGecko, USDC market capitalization has decreased over 50% in the past year, falling from 54 billion on August 8, 2022 to just 26 billion on August 8, 2023. That's almost more than a 50% drop in just 1 year. He further explained that Circle is expanding its global banking and liquidity network by collaborating with high-quality banks in major regions worldwide. It seems like far more nations outside of the US are facing big problems with their own currency and are now choosing to adopt the US dollar instead for savings, just like we saw in the previous article in Argentina. And many other countries in the world are probably going to start using stable coins to protect their money from inflation, especially from their local currency inflation. That does not mean the US dollar does not have inflation, but if you were to compare the emerging markets or third world countries' currency inflation versus the US dollar, it's a no-brainer that the US dollar has much lower inflation compared to a 50% inflation per month in some of these currencies overseas. And this is at least one of the ways that people from countries that don't have a stable monetary regime can somewhat protect themselves from the unfortunate mismanagement of their currencies in their local countries. Hopefully the whole world will start waking up to this fact, and maybe might realize that even the US dollar is inflating, and maybe a fixed monetary currency like Bitcoin might be the solution. Thank you for staying to the end of the video. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll see you again tomorrow.